Welcome to the Ray Hanania Radio Show, brought to you by the U.S. Arab Radio Network and sponsored by Arab News, the leading English language newspaper in the Middle East at arabnews.com. I'm Ray Hanania, your host. This season, the Ray Hanania Radio Show will focus on the U.S. presidential elections, the battle between the major party candidates, including Republican Party nominee, former President Donald Trump, and Democratic Party nominee, Vice President Kamala Harris, and also the third party contenders who could push the election into the House, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and the Green Party's candidate, Dr. Jill Stein. Who do Arabs and Muslims support in the presidential election and why? And what are the issues? I have two guests tonight who will help us understand the factors driving Arab and Muslim American support in the November 5, 2024 presidential election. What do Arab and Muslim Republicans expect from Trump? And what do Arab and Muslim Democrats expect from Harris? First up in segment one is Dr. Bishara, Bahbah, a Republican and the chairman of the Arab Americans for Trump. Bahbah talks about why Arab and Muslim Americans should support former President Donald Trump. Then we speak with Democrat Nasser Beydoun, a Lebanese-American Democrat and former candidate for U.S. Senate from Michigan, who was challenged and removed from the ballot by a technicality by the pro-Israel lobby. Beydoun talks about the Arab and Muslim community and what Kamala Harris must do to win their support in the presidential election contest against Trump in November. The Ray Hanania Show is broadcast live every Thursday at 5 p.m. on WNZK AM 690 radio in Michigan and rebroadcast every Monday at 5 p.m. You can get information on the audio and video podcast and to watch it online by visiting the website arabnews.com/Ray Radio Show. We will speak with our guests, Republican Dr. Bishara Bahbah and Democrat Nasser Beydoun, right after these messages here on the U.S. Arab Radio Network. We'll be right back right after these messages.
ArabNews.com, bringing you breaking news from across the Middle East and the latest on Arabs in America. Get inside the latest headlines with expert analysis and insights at ArabNews.com. Join over 5 million Facebook fans and over 10 million monthly readers. ArabNews.com, news that matters to you.
Hey Michigan, let's think beyond the sink and learn where the water your family drinks every day comes from. Private wells and public water supplies allow homes across Michigan to draw water from different sources, like lakes, rivers, and groundwater. Tap into the facts about your home's water source and learn about your home's water quality to protect your family's health. Visit michigan.gov/care for MI drinking water. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Ziyad brand. Quality products from our family to yours. Ziyad Brothers Importing offers the finest quality products, including brands like Sultan, Kraft, Nestle, Hook, Rico Picon, Donna, and many more. Ask your retailer to carry these fine products because you deserve the very best. For more information, visit our website at www.ziyad.com. That's www.ziyad.com. Ziyad, quality products from our family to yours.
Every Thursday in Michigan at 5 p.m., award-winning columnist and journalist Ray Hanania hosts the Ray Hanania Radio Show, presented by the U.S. Arab Radio Network on WNZK AM 690 Radio and brought to you by Arab News newspaper. This season's focus is on the U.S. presidential elections. Will it be Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., or Dr. Jill Stein? Veteran political analysts and elected officials will join as guests. Join us every Thursday at 5 p.m. on WNZK AM 690 Radio for the Ray Hanania Radio Show, presented by the U.S. Arab Radio Network, a special on the presidential elections. Shows are rebroadcast each Monday at 5 p.m. Get to know more about the show at arabnews.com.
And now my first guest tonight is Dr. Bishara Bahbah, chairman of Arab Americans for Trump, the Republican group that has been organizing meetings with key leaders of the Arab American and Muslim community around the country to listen to them and clarify and inform them about where former President Donald Trump stands on issues like Palestine, Israel, Gaza, the Middle East, and on Christian and Muslim Arabs. Dr. Bahbah is working closely with Dr. Mossad Bulus, whose son Michael is married to President Trump's daughter, Tiffany. Welcome to the show, Dr. Bahbah. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So you've been really active with Dr. Bulus, and you've been organizing meetings with Arabs and Muslims around the country in key swing states and battleground states. What has been the overall response? What response are you getting from these meetings?
You know, it's been an interesting venture, to say the least, because on one hand, you've got Arab and Muslim Americans who are enraged at the Biden-Harris administration over the complicity in killing over 40,000 Palestinians in Gaza and the injuring of over 105,000 thus far. So on one hand, they're enraged. On the other hand, you know, we're trying to tell them that President Trump wants to see an end to the hostilities. President Trump wants to see an end to the killing of civilians, and he wants to see a peace process that would lead to a two-state solution. Now, when we say that, unfortunately, the president sometimes addresses the extreme element of the party in a manner that that makes our constituency terribly uncomfortable, and so it is difficult to balance what he says versus what he would actually do. In my view, the president is intent on ending the war in Gaza, and he is intent on rebuilding the Gaza Strip or helping rebuild the Gaza Strip. And he's also intent on pursuing peace in the Middle East based on a two-state solution.
And I know that you're saying this not out of reading his policy statements, but because you've met with him. And your group, you know, you've talked with him and his staff. So it's clear from you then that he supports a two-state solution and he wants to see the violence end.
Well, let me be clear. It was not a meeting per se. It was an opportunity to talk to him briefly. But when I talked to him, you know, I introduced the Arab Americans for Trump, and he was terribly pleased, very pleased with the fact that we are a group that has been created to support his presidency. And at the same time, I said, Mr. President, I am doing this for a primary reason. I want to see peace in the Middle East based on a two-state solution. And his response to me was 100%. So I find that very encouraging. Now, as you know, when Netanyahu had requested a meeting with President Trump, and Netanyahu was very insistent on meeting President Trump. And you know, Netanyahu and Trump did not have a terribly good relationship, particularly because Netanyahu was quick to congratulate Biden on winning the presidency in 2020. So when he announced that he was meeting Netanyahu, he said, I look forward to meeting Netanyahu. I look more forward to achieving peace in the Middle East. And at the same time, he published a letter that was sent to him by President Mahmoud Abbas, the president of the Palestinian Authority. And he published his response to the president, to President Abbas, in which he seemed very encouraging. You know, it looks like the president is very geared up toward working with the Palestinians again. And in fact, this would be the first time I share it with anyone, but we're in the process of arranging a meeting between President Trump and the Palestinian president during the UN General Assembly meetings in New York.
That would be phenomenal. I mean, I've covered politics 45 years, and the one thing I've learned is what politicians say during campaigns often has to meet the expectations of all of their supporters, from the moderates to the extremists. But after the election, when they're in, they tend to pull back. They become more moderate. They become more reasoned and more sensible. Do you see that as what would happen under a Trump administration? Because there are some moments when he says things like, I think last week, he referred to the protesters. There won't be any jihadists, I think, when he's president or something along those lines. But those are terms that I think are meant for the election, not for a presidency. What do you think?
Well, yes, they are meant for an important constituency of the Republican Party. But nevertheless, I mean, this is a free country. And this is the bastion of democracy of the world, And to say that we're not going to allow students to protest is just not in the realm of reality. Students have always protested. People in this country have always been free to express their opinion, whether they were visitors or whether they were residents or citizens of the United States. I think that this rhetoric is really intended for a portion of his electoral base. But at the same time, I keep reminding everybody that irrespective of the amount of money that the pro-Israel groups are dumping on both sides of the presidential elections, irrespective of that, it will only take votes to get the presidency, not money.
Right.
When we're talking about Michigan, for example, President Trump won Michigan by less than 11,000 votes in 2016. He lost it in 2020 by 155,000 votes. These were primarily people who were angry at some of his policies during his first term in office. Now, right now, if the president comes out and says, I want to see an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Gaza, I want to see the rebuilding of Gaza, and I want to see a peace process leading to a two-state solution, I can tell you that Arab and Muslim Americans in Michigan will vote in droves for President Trump. And the reason for that is because comparing the President Trump with the Biden-Harris administration is of no comparison. The Biden-Harris administration, although they've been sweet-talking the Arab and Muslim Americans, they have been the ones who have incessantly provided arms to Israel. Those arms, whether they were a bullet or a 2,000-pound bomb, have killed Palestinians in Gaza, over 40,000. That's a crime against humanity. And the United States and primarily the Biden-Harris administration have been complicit in that. Without those arms provided to Israel, the war would have ended a very long time ago. But the continuous flow of arms from the United States, from certain European countries, have allowed Israel to continue with the killing.
I think you make an important point there, because I remember when Biden was elected, he said he had a partnership with the Arab community. He appointed all these Arabs to positions in his government, but they were all bridled. They were all prevented from making speeches. They were all prevented from doing interviews. So he put them like a showcase. But every time I tried to talk with one of them, they were told that, no, we don't want to upset the apple cart. So I don't know if that was a good thing for the Arab community. The other thing I learned was I went to the Peace to Prosperity conference in Bahrain that President Trump organized. And what I found, one of President Trump's aides told me at the time that it was a shame that the Palestinians didn't go there to push back. that they boycotted that. And by doing so, they left a void, a space open where they couldn't lobby the president to tell them what they thought. Is that something that the Arabs do? We get angry with some of the rhetoric, and instead of engaging like you're doing, you're engaging them, and you may agree or disagree with some of the rhetoric, but your engagement continues to push the issue in front of him. Do you think the Arab community and the Muslim community need to learn to do that more in American politics?
Well, definitely. We need to be as a community with the Republicans as well as with the Democrats. Whether we fully agree with what they say or their positions, we need to be on both sides. Now, going back to the issue of the void that the Palestinians have created, this is one of the reasons why why it was so important for the Palestinian president to send President Trump a letter wishing him well after the assassination attempt. It shows that the Palestinians are willing to re-engage with the Trump administration. It shows that going forward, they will not leave a void. They will not allow a clown like Netanyahu to be toying around with what he thought was his playing field in the Trump administration. That will not happen again. No matter what happens, the Palestinians are committed to be in the room and not outside of the room. And I think that's a very important point, not only for the Palestinian government, but also for Arab Americans. We cannot pout at what politicians say. You know, we have to accept the realities on the ground. If we had the power of the pro-Israel groups, you know, then we can do whatever we want.
Right.
The pro-Israel groups dump money, and in return, they get 50-fold for Israel, you know?
So they're active. They're active, in other words. They lobby, even when they don't like something. They don't run, they don't boycott, they don't hide. They engage, right? Isn't that what we should be doing?
Absolutely. Now, Mrs. Adelson, when she appeared with President Trump the other day, she said that all Jewish Americans should vote for the Republicans. And of course, there's on the other side, they say all Jewish Americans should be voting for the Democrats. You know what? That's a smart strategy. And whether President Trump wins or whether Harris wins, you know, they're on both sides of the political spectrum, and their voices will eventually be heard. And that's what we as a community, as an Arab, Muslim, Christian, Chaldean community should be doing. The Chaldeans, I have to say, who are Iraqi Christians, are very smart in that regard. I mean, they've been totally Republican. But no matter what the Republicans say, they've been committed to the Republican Party. They've been engaged in the Republican Party. They have influence with the Republican Party. And that's the smart thing to do. Now, somebody else might want to be like that on the Democratic side, and that would be a smart thing to do. So it's not a situation where everything would be the same for everyone. No, you know, we deal with different political realities on both the Democratic and Republican side, and we should be engaged. We should be engaged, and that's my message to the Arab and Muslim, Christian, Chaldean communities in the United States. Be engaged. Otherwise, the other side is going to be engaged and take over and do whatever they want to do with the policymakers.
In other words, don't get angry.
No.
Get active, correct?
Exactly. Absolutely.
Tell me about some of the meetings. Because you were there with Dr. Bullis or other people with you at these meetings, like Richard Grinnell, I understand, Alina Habba. Tell us about how these meetings and who's been with you. And I know you have more meetings coming up. I don't know if you can talk about some of these upcoming meetings, but whatever you can talk about it. you want to share it. I mean, what are these meetings like, and who's there, and what do they say to the audiences when they meet with them?
Well, I mean, about 3 weeks ago, I believe we were in Michigan. Ambassador Richard Grenell was there. Alina Habba, the Arab American Iraqi lawyer, she is President Trump's lawyer in some of his cases, was there as well. Dr. Masad Boulos was there. Myself, I was there. And we met with a cross section of the Arab American and Muslim American communities. There were imams and there were bishops there. There were business leaders. There were political activists on both sides of the political spectrum. And the message has been all along, be engaged. If you are engaged and your voices are heard and your support is shown, then you will get a seat at the table and a voice to be heard. And that's the message that we have been conveying to the Arab and Muslim American communities. Now, some people, for example, got angry last week at what President Trump had said regarding the students, protesters here in this country, regarding a victory for the Israelis in Gaza. He said the Israelis should have victory in Gaza, and at the same time, the killing should be stopped. You know what? The Israelis can never have a victory in Gaza. They've already lost. They lost on October 7th. When their whole security system collapsed in front of the attacks of Hamas at the time. And the Israelis have never engaged in a war that has lasted 10 months with anyone. So the Israelis, no matter how the war ends in Gaza, the Israelis are the losers. Yes, the Palestinians have been decimated in 60% of all the housing units in Gaza have been destroyed. 80% of the infrastructure in Gaza has been destroyed, not to mention about the human casualties. But at the same time, the Israelis can never claim victory in Gaza because they have lost. They have lost. They've already lost from day one.
And I think you've made the point that Israel's invasion of Gaza has been almost entirely funded by the United States. 3 big awards from Biden, totaling almost $100 billion, have gone to fund that war. When you talk to them, even if they are angry with Trump, what do you say to them if you can't convince them to support Trump? What is the position, the worst case that they should follow?
Last week, as you know, there were 2 announcements with regard to military aid to Israel. One of the announcements was for $3.5 billion in military sales. They call it sales. Actually, it's money provided by the United States. And the other one was $20 billion of arms. Now, as you know, when the Biden-Harris administration began providing military aid to Israel, they tried to hide it from the U.S. Congress by not revealing by making sure that every arms deal was below the threshold of $100 million. So they don't provide it they don't provide the information to Congress.
They don't need the approval.
They don't need the approval. They don't need to report it to Congress. Now, to Arab and Muslim Americans, I say, look at what the Biden-Harris administration has done. And there is no that much difference between Biden and Harris when it comes to the issue of support for Israel. Harris has said that the support for Israel will be strong, will be unconditional, more or less, while at the same time saying, we support the establishment of a 2-state solution. So, I mean, right now, if I look at both candidates, Harris is a person who has been, for the last 3.5 years, part of the Biden-Harris administration that has provided tens of billions of military aid to Israel that were killing civilians in Gaza. And of course, we can't forget what's happening in the West Bank and southern
Right.
Lebanon.
Right.
West Bank is a powder keg right now. Israeli settlers are about to go about doing whatever they want with nobody's interference. And in South Lebanon, entire villages have been destroyed over the last 10 months. So we want to see an end to those wars. Harris is not going to bring an end to those wars. Harris has been complicit in the killing of people. And if Harris is elected, we will have another 4 years of the Biden-Harris administration with a nicer tone, meaning, yes, we care about the casualties in Gaza. They should not kill as many people in Gaza. Oh, how about women's hygiene in Gaza? Do you think women in Gaza care about hygiene when they are being killed, when their children are being killed? So Harris can take her talk and shove it, as far as I'm concerned.
And then just a couple more questions. I know you're on a time limit here, and I so appreciate our guest, Bishara Bahbah, who is with Arab Americans for Trump. Just going back to the Chaldeans, and who are non-Arab Middle Eastern people, mainly from Iraq. There are Syrians in the Chicago area, but they're like Arabs and Muslims. We're a conservative community. We believe in family values. We believe in religion. All the things that I think that the core of the Republican Party connects with us, even though sometimes the rhetoric goes to the extreme. The Republicans are a natural fit for Arab and Muslims, aren't they? And shouldn't we play a role in bringing that party back to the center that represents what our interests are?
The Chaldeans, by the way, do speak Arabic, and they're from Iraq.
Yes.
So
and culturally, they're Arab.
They're very proud of their heritage. They still have contacts with their loved ones in Iraq. The patriarch of the Chaldean church is based in Baghdad. So there is still that strong connection with Iraq. And of course, they speak Arabic. In Michigan, it was lovely meeting so many of them. And by the way, they're having a great event on September 12th in Michigan, in which they expect about 900 people to attend a major gala for the Chaldean Foundation. So the Chaldeans are really critical aspect of the Arab communities in the United States. Yes, they go by Chaldeans primarily, but I'm a Palestinian American. They are very strong, very dedicated. They are very generous when it comes to political donations. They understand that they need to be involved. And I believe that the Arabs and Muslims, the other Arabs and Muslims, should not be as emotional when it comes to their political participation in either party. If you want to be on the Democratic side, fine. But on the place for Arab Muslim Americans is really within the Republican Party. We share so many values with them. Our children are born in this country and they grow up in this country, and and we want them to have an education free of the eccentricities that are going on and that are accepted readily by the Democratic Party. I am not against anyone, but I am against imposing values that are not mine on me. I don't want to have in my daughter's library books about homosexuality, explicit pictures, and so on. I do not want that,
I get it.
And that's a very important issue for us on the domestic side. So I believe that we have come a long way as a community. We are a lot more engaged. The dean of our community is Jim Zogby. He's been in it for 50 years, if not more.
Yes.
And from the time when Jim Zaghi and Ambassador Abu Rizk,
Right.
I'm sorry,
James
Senator
Everett. Yeah, Senator
James
Everett.
Abu Rizk
Right.
started the ADC
I
up
was there at
until,
that meeting. I was there at that meeting in
which
the
is
70s.
phenomenal. It's been 50 years.
Yes, it has.
Uh,
It has.
and the work that Jim, for example, has done over those years has been phenomenal. And his work is political participation of Arabs, Americans, Chaldeans in the political process, whether they're on the left or on the right of the political spectrum. And we've seen the progression of our community and the evolution of our community to the point where we are now strong participants in the political process. We just have to take some of our emotions and put them on the side and be practical when it comes to dealing with the Republican or the Democratic Party.
All right. I want to thank my guest, Dr. Bishara Bahbah, chairman of Arab Americans for Trump, a Republican group that's been organizing meetings with key leaders of the Arab American and Muslim community and the Chaldean community, who, by the way, are big fans of my radio show. We love the Chaldeans. He has taken the time to talk to us to explain this on the Ray Hanania Show. Dr. Bahbah, thank you again so much. I look forward to talking to you again. I really appreciate you coming on the program tonight.
Ray, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. And my best regards to your viewership. Thank you.
ArabNews.com, bringing you breaking news from across the Middle East and the latest on Arabs in America. Get inside the latest headlines with expert analysis and insights at ArabNews.com. Join over 5 million Facebook fans and over 10 million monthly readers. ArabNews.com, news that matters to you.
Are you going to start a restaurant or grocery store soon? Do you need floor plans and designs? Call Naji Abood at 734-744-9796. Do you want to buy kitchen and restaurant equipment at discount prices? Call Naji Abood now, 734-744-9796. New Concept Products and Design, the trademark of kitchen equipment. 5% discount on all purchases of $75,000 or more. New Concept Products and Design, new location, 31185 Schoolcraft in Livonia. Learn more at www.newconceptproducts.com. Call Naji Abood, 734-744-9796.
With more than 30,000 successful in vitro fertilizations, IVF Michigan is now ranked as one of America's best fertility clinics according to Newsweek magazine. IVF Michigan fertility centers are the recognized leaders in high-quality fertility care. With locations in Bloomfield Hills and 9 other cities in Michigan and Ohio, IVF has experts in all aspects of the field. A founding member, American board-certified Dr. Nicholas Shama, is one of the leading reproductive endocrinologists in Michigan and Ohio. He has performed over 20,000 successful IVF cases, and it's helped thousands of couples fulfill their dreams of parenthood. When it's time to get personalized care from Dr. Nicholas Shama at one of America's best fertility clinics, call IVF Michigan Fertility Centers in Michigan and Ohio toll-free at 855-952-9600. 855-952-9600. At Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic in Dearborn, we provide effective physical therapy sessions in order to limit pain and discomfort. Top Rehab provides physical therapy care for any diagnosis prescribed by a physician, and we regularly see and treat conditions such as stroke, TMJ, fibromyalgia, sciatica, joint pain, and more. We use a variety of pain management methods, including modalities, soft tissue mobilization, and therapeutic exercise. If you're in need of physical rehabilitation or physical therapy, get the highest quality health care at Top Rehab. Most insurance is accepted, and we're open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday 8 to 6, Tuesday and Thursday 8 to 5, and Saturday 10 till 2. Call for an appointment today at 313-846-0555. That's 313-846-0555. Choose Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic on Michigan Avenue in Dearborn. Life's too short to be in pain.
And now I'm on the line today with Nasser Beydoun. who served previously as chairman and executive director of the American Arab Chamber of Commerce in Michigan, and also as vice chairman of the New Detroit Coalition. Beydoun is a longtime civil rights advocate and business leader with a proven record of building cultural and economic bridges that bring people together to create a stronger community. He was a Democratic candidate for Michigan in the U.S. Senate race this past year. Nasser, thank you so much for joining us on the radio show today.
Thank you, Ray. It's a pleasure to be here.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has played a major role in the presidential election. There are people supporting Trump. I am interested in what is Harris's challenge? What's the hurdle that she is faced with, and is she addressing it?
Well, Harris's main challenge is she was vice president to Joe Biden. And Joe Biden is responsible and enabled a genocide. You know, there is no way that you can make Joe Biden this great president. Joe Biden is responsible for a genocide. Simple as that.
Right.
He's funded it, he's supported it, he's armed it, and he's given Israel the cover that it needed to kill 40,000 men, women, and children in Gaza. And Kamala Harris was part of that administration. And to this day, other than a few kind words, she has done nothing to change how we feel about the Biden-Harris administration.
Did you attend any of these meetings that they've been trying to have, that the Harris administration they've been reaching out to Arabs and Muslims all over the country?
No, I wasn't invited to any of the meetings because I think I was the first one to call for Joe Biden to step down in November of last year. And it was published on Fox News. As a Democrat, as a candidate for U.S. Senate, I said that if Joe Biden was the nominee in this election, Donald Trump would be president of the United States.
You know, obviously, Joe Biden has stepped down, and I think it had a lot to do with the pressures from you and others. They don't want to acknowledge it, that the Arab and Muslim community withdrew its support for him, and there was no way that he could win, regardless of who endorses him, if the Arab and Muslims in Michigan, Wisconsin, and some of these swing and battleground states didn't support him. But Harris, she was part of the Biden administration. She was kept in the background a lot by Biden and his handlers. Is there a chance did she have a chance to step forward and do the right thing? And does she still have a chance to step forward and do the things that Biden needed to do but did not do?
Let me ask you this. Is there any politician in the United States that's willing to step forward and do the right thing? That doesn't fear losing Apex, having Apex vengeance come down on him. The only one that I know of who talks a good game is Bernie Sanders. But, right now, what the Democrats are saying and hoping is, okay, we've replaced Joe Biden. We gave you Kamala Harris, who said ceasefire, and if you don't elect Kamala Harris, Donald Trump's going to be your next president, and that's going to be on you. No, it's not on us. If Donald Trump is elected president, it's because you gave us a candidate, the Democrats. You didn't have a primary system. You didn't allow the people of this country to pick a nominee. You gave us a senile genocide enabler. And then when he was forced to drop out, you basically gave us his vice president, who has not done anything whatsoever to change the policies of this administration or come out of. If Kamala Harris wanted to do something, she would come out and say, when I become president, I'm going to support a political state. I'm not going to veto when the rest of the world says there should be a Palestinian state, and they're the only ones that veto it. So the policy is still the policy. She hasn't said that we're going to limit weapons to Israel. She didn't say that we're going to cut the funding as long as the genocide is going on. She didn't say anything. She just says I stand with Israel's right to defend itself. We have to bring the hostages home, and we need a ceasefire in Gaza. That's not enough. Not when you have 40,000 people, and not when you have my country supporting a genocide.
Is that why it's so difficult? I cannot find one Arab or Muslim in America who will publicly go on record and say they support her. Could you support her if she did the right thing and change? Because there is still time, isn't there, before the election? I mean, obviously the odds may be against it because AIPAC is very powerful, the money that's being poured into her campaign and the campaigns of her supporters. But let's just say that in the next 8 weeks or so, couldn't you change your mind and do the right thing? And would that make a difference?
Listen, I've learned in this political process, and especially running for office, is that from now on, I'm not going to support a Republican or a Democrat. I'm going to support an individual who's going to do the right thing. Because both parties are corrupt. So it's basically when you run for office, you have to pick a team and hold your nose. That's all it is.
And I understand your point because I hear this often a lot from everybody that they don't support the party anymore. In Illinois, the Arab American Democratic Club changed its name and said, we no longer support any particular party. We support individual candidates who support the rights of our community. Is that basically what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying that from now on, any candidate wants to come to us, ask for support, ask for money, ask for help, he better offer us something in return. And number one is to get the money out of politics and end AIPAC's domination of our political process.
Was that AIPAC behind undermining your candidacy for the U.S. Senate? Were they behind? Was there funding in there?
I was offered $20 million not to run against Rashida Tlaib. To run against Rashida Tlaib. Money that would have probably funneled in from AIPAC, and I refused. I was very vocal in my opposition to their domination and how they've been such a corrupting force in our politics. Basically, when you have 60% of the American public saying they want a ceasefire and only 7% of Congress willing to mention the word ceasefire because of AIPAC, I say we need to change. And I think the American public needs to wake up quickly to see that Zionism is not equivalent to Judaism. Anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism, and that Zionism is a failed ideology. It's a fascist, racist, genocidal, apartheid ideology that needs to be thrown in the dustbin of history.
Is there any chance, do you think, that Harris can be pulled away from that to be moderated? We know how the community is. They get really tough. They get emotional. The election comes up. There's going to be a lot of money spent to, target Arabs and Muslims. They're going to say, if you don't vote for Harris, Trump is going to win. And look what Trump did, 4 years ago. If she were to say the right things and do the right things, would it make a difference? It sounds like it would.
If she did that, but the problem is, Ray, is, this is politics. This is a political season. This is, every politician is going to say the right thing except Donald Trump because he doesn't know what's right and what's wrong. But Kamala Harris is going to come out and say the right things. She's going to say what you want to hear. But is she going to translate that into policy? Is she going to really enact it? It's funny how politicians always get these great ideas right before an election and seem to forget them the day after the election. So we are not going to take politicians at their word anymore. My philosophy is that if you're a politician, you are corrupt until you prove to me you're not, because you're guilty by association.
You're in the Arab American community in Michigan. How does the community feel? What do you see is the attitude of the community? Can they be broken by the Democrats to to be pushed into supporting Harris by saying, if you don't elect Harris, Trump is going to win. I mean, that is kind of a disturbing, potential. But again, maybe the Democrats need to be taught a lesson. Is that what's at stake here? That regardless of who wins, the Democrats need to know Arabs and Muslims can't be taken for granted?
Well, you have, Michigan was where the uncommitted campaign started. And Michigan has a substantial Arab American and Muslim community. And you can't win the presidency without Michigan. So if you're running for office basically on the platform that if you don't elect me, Donald Trump's going to be your next president, and Donald Trump is the boogeyman, that's not going to fly. Because if Donald Trump gets elected president, it's not because we elected him president. It's because you failed to win over our community. When we have 40,000 of our brothers and sisters slaughtered, if you don't give us something, we are going to punish you. And if punishment means Donald Trump becomes president, we'll deal with that for 4 years. And we'll look down to the next election and say to that, if you want us, this is what we're going to do. This is what you have to do to win our vote. It's no more come take a picture, eat some hummus, and you have our vote. Those days are gone. And I hope that every Arab American and Muslim in this country has that same philosophy. We are too nice of a community, and we've been docile long enough. But enough is enough. When there's a genocide on the line, and when we see Israel taking this country down with it, then we have to say, enough is enough, and we are not going to tolerate it. So if Kamala Harris wants my vote, she has to earn my vote. She doesn't get it because she's not Joe Biden.
Right. But I'm going to ask you again, how does she earn your vote? I mean, I know in a general way, I don't know if it can be said specifically what she needs to do, but how does she earn your vote? What does she need to do to earn the vote of Arabs and Muslims in Michigan and around the country? How does she do that?
Well, basically, she comes out with a platform that says she is going to recognize the state of Palestine after she is elected president. That, I don't understand why we haven't. We've always given lip service to this two-state solution. And we've always said that in order for there to be peace in the region, there has to be two states, a Palestinian and Israeli. Yet we refuse to recognize the Palestinian state, and we continue to fund the Israeli state's genocide and attack and expansion and settlements. So I think that is the minimum she can do to earn our trust. She can't come and say, oh, we need to end the ceasefire, but Israel has a right to defend itself. I feel for the suffering of the Palestinian people, but Israel has a right to defend itself. That's not going to fly. Not with me.
Right.
Maybe somebody else, but not with me.
But it sounds like not with the majority of the community. The news media plays a major role in all of this. I believe that the abandoned Biden and the uncommitted movement, which I believe started in Michigan. It had a huge impact, which you were part of and many other Arab American and Muslim leaders were part of. They sent a real clear message that you cannot win Michigan without addressing our needs. But the media pretended like you didn't exist. They pretended like those votes didn't disappear. They pretended like the community, they're a problem, but we'll deal with them in time after the convention. They'll see that Trump will be the boogeyman and they'll come around. Did the media play a role in your mind in terms of framing this in that manner, or is it just the way politics is?
No, the media is very biased. I mean, the media, the social platforms, Google, they are all very pro-Israel, and they are basically instruments of Zionism. So we have a hard time getting our message out. But thank God for social media to an extent. Thank God for TikTok, which, isn't is allowing more voices to be. One of the reasons that Congress wants to ban TikTok is because
Right.
they perceive it as pro-Palestinian.
Well,
And where we have a voice.
They're showing the videos, right, of the Palestinian women and children being massacred that we're not seeing on TV and the mainstream media, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So, I just, sometimes you lose faith, but, you got to continue to fight. And we cannot let this genocide go. And we have a calling. And, like for instance, in Michigan, AIPAC and the pro-Israel powers to be realize that the Arab and Muslim community is gaining strength politically in the state. We are probably the most represented people in, anywhere around the country as a community here in Michigan. So what did they do when I decided to run for office? They basically selected the most pro-Israel Zionist person to run against me, Alyssa Slotkin. She basically announced on day one that she was running, and the second day she raised $1.5 million. She raised over $15 million for her campaign. Her background is that she worked in the CIA and did 3 tours in Iraq. So basically, if AIPAC and the CIA had a baby, it would be Alyssa Slotkin. Because they know that if somebody like me were to get into the US Senate, all hell's going to break loose. Because they can't control me, they can't buy me, and a senator has a lot more power than a representative does.
And even though they may have undermined you by using these electoral gimmicks and election laws to prevent you from running, it sounds like the Arab and Muslim community still is very strong. They have a role to play in this upcoming election. And it sounds like it's if it's not heeded, if Harris doesn't heed the needs of the Arab and Muslim community, she's not going to win. Can she win without the Arabs and Muslims in Michigan?
Is that a risk they want to be willing to take? I mean, for instance, right now in this last primary, August 6th, the community basically didn't come out to vote. They stayed home. So that shows you that there's nothing exciting in the race for them. And even as strong as we are, but we're not as strong as the pro-Israel lobby, because even our governor, our lieutenant governor, our secretary of state, our attorney general, to this day have refused to call for a ceasefire. And even our Senator Gary Peters, who only won last time by 60,000 votes because of the Arab community, to this day has refused to call for a ceasefire. So
Wow.
We have a long way to go. I hope that our community understands that if we are going to survive, if we are going to overcome this, we have to come together. Put our differences aside, stop looking at the least common denominator to bring us together, and start looking at the greatest common denominator. And that greatest common denominator is that 40,000 of our brothers and sisters have been slaughtered by a racist apartheid regime backed by the United States of America.
And one final question to my guest, Nasser Beydoun, a Democrat who has been so active in the Michigan community, a leader that many people look up to. If you were to sit down with Kamala Harris today, what would you want to say to her?
Basically, I asked her a question: how are you going to earn my vote? How are you going to earn my vote when you keep spewing the same pro-Israel language, talking points? How are you going to change American policy to protect, defend, and ensure a Palestinian state? To me, Palestine is a moral issue as Sudan, as Yemen, as Africa, as Myanmar, all these places, our foreign policy needs to change. We need to end the hypocrisy in our foreign policy. We need to stop saying that we were this beacon of freedom, beacon of light, and continue to support dictators and military and killing people overseas. We need to rein in our military industrial complex. We need to rein in AIPAC. We need to rein in Big Pharma, and to ensure that America is going to survive.
All right. My guest, Nasser Beydoun. Nasser, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. I look forward to talking to you again. Let's see what happens in this presidential election, and I'm sure we're going to talk right afterwards. Thank you so much.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ray.
ArabNews.com, bringing you breaking news from across the Middle East and the latest on Arabs in America. Get inside the latest headlines with expert analysis and insights at ArabNews.com. Join over 5 million Facebook fans and over 10 million monthly readers. ArabNews.com, news that matters to you. Get ready for an amazing experience at Ishtar Restaurant on 15 Mile Road in Sterling Heights. Enjoy excellent hospitality from owners Ali Al-Baghdadi and Fatty Bonham, serving the best in Mediterranean food. Try Chef Ali Al-Baghdadi's famous shawarma, the best Iraqi grills and food, and the best Arabic and international dishes. Dine in our authentic atmosphere or take out. Call 586-698-2585 or check us out on Facebook. Ishtar Restaurant practices all CDC guidelines and is open every day 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Have an amazing experience today at Ishtar Restaurant, 3625 15 Mile Road, Sterling Heights. Life for Relief and Development has now been rated as one of the best charities for humanitarian aid. Life's humanitarian projects span the globe, and Life is celebrating its 30th anniversary of providing essential life-saving aid to people and communities in 36 countries, regardless of race, color, religion, or cultural background. Where there is life, there is hope, and when disaster occurs here or around the world, including being one of the first responders to the Turkey-Syria earthquake crisis, Life for Relief and Development rushes in to provide food, medical aid, and shelter to those in need. We are looking to help the earthquake victims, and we take 0% overhead on emergency donations, so please help improve these efforts. Learn more about our involvement to help the helpless and bring hope where it's needed most, and make your tax-deductible donation to Life for Relief and Development now at lifeusa.org or call 248-424-7493. That's 248-424-7493.
Thank you for listening to the Ray Hanania Radio Show, brought to you by the U.S. Arab Radio Network and sponsored by Arab News, the leading English language newspaper in the Middle East at ArabNews.com. This season, the Ray Hanania Radio Show focuses on the U.S. presidential elections, the battle between the major party candidates, former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris, and the third-party contenders who could push the election into the House, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Dr. Jill Stein. We'll be back next Thursday with more special guests to help us understand the role Arab and Muslim voters in America are playing in the presidential election. Check out our page at arabnews.com/Ray Radio Show for all of the programs that we've recorded and all of the story links that have been written about the program. And also you can go to my website at hanania.com, Hanania, hanania.com for my columns, my radio shows, my podcasts, and all my writing at Arab News. Have a great week, everybody. See you next Thursday. Good evening.